the Auburn Blitz Podcast, your direct source for all Auburn all the time with Brett Pritchard, Faith Richardson, and Randy Lee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Auburn Blitz Podcast here on this Wednesday. Glad that you joined us wherever it is that you tune us in each and every day, whether it's live or whether it's later in the day. We appreciate you finding the Auburn Blitz to get all your Auburn inside information. Brett and Randy here with you this morning. We'll get started right out of the gate here by talking about some of our partners here on the program. We really appreciate each and every one of them. Sensagreen, for air that's cool and clean, call them Sensagreen. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama, proud supporters of Auburn Athletics and the Auburn Blitz Podcast. Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm specializing in educational projects from start to finish, the pre-construction phase all the way to the finished product. Scout Program Management is who you need to call on for your construction management needs. And then Bunkers in downtown Auburn, great place, official home for March Madness here on the Auburn Blitz Podcast. Go check them out if you can't make it to Atlanta this coming up weekend for Auburn's games in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. I'm going to go ahead and say that, and the Elite 8. Go to Bunkers. Great environment, great service, great food, all the TVs. You won't miss a second of March Madness. 50 parking spots on West Glen, downtown Auburn. Make sure you go check out Bunkers. Good to see you this morning, Randy. Football is in the air. Obviously, basketball is going into the Sweet 16 this coming Friday. We'll talk some more about that. But the press yesterday, it was good to kind of be back and just kind of your initial thoughts on what we heard, and we'll go through some of his quotes specifically and some of the things that we think are important heading into this spring.
Well, I mean, I'm a football lover, the same as you are, and I'm very hopeful that this Auburn program is about to turn the corner. Just watching the players and hearing what's coming out, and I see your bottom graphic down there, receivers. That's where we start. Can Auburn be explosive on the offensive side of the ball? Because I think we have put, at least a presentable product, a very winnable product on the defensive side of the ball for the last 7 to 10 years that we've struggled. But for the most part, we haven't been able to be dynamic on the offensive side. And Hugh Freeze last year makes the decision, instead of going and spending the big money on a transfer quarterback, let's just rock and roll with what we got. And it kind of got us what we deserved, I feel like, last year. But he thought he was putting the cart before the horse with that. So he needed to go in the high school ranks and to get the receivers that can make a big splash here for this football program. And I thought that was a majority of the talk coming out of camp yesterday, was this group compares to any of the best that he has coached and any of the best that he's seen. And I feel that way. I've seen a lot of these guys. A lot of them are Alabama kids. You and I covered Malcolm Simmons, who, if he doesn't make a major splash this year, I'll be shocked. I mean, he's not normal. He is an exceptional athlete with a really, really good personality and skill set when it comes to how he emotionally carries himself on the practice field and on the football field whenever it's game time. I don't think that should be said lightly, Brett. Some guys are mopers. Some guys don't have, the emotional state to be able to go out there and pull everybody. Tide comes up with when you have guys like that. You want them in the game. They're going to bring everybody up with them, and I think Malcolm is one of those. But Perry Thompson, State Alabama guy. Cam Coleman, of course, State Alabama guy. So you and I have had the good pleasure of watching these young men grow up and see them perform here in the state and win championships, like with Cam Coleman, who was a key reason that Central Phoenix City got over the hump and won that state title. So that's where I would start with it, Brett. I'm hopeful the two quarterbacks that we've got that are competing for the starting job can take their talent level up to match where I think these receivers are going, and the receivers may already be. You said a mouthful yesterday when you said these guys are seniored. They're not seniors, but from a playing standpoint, several of these guys, including Malcolm and Cam, have had a lot of snaps already. And that may sound crazy to us, but in today's transfer portal and NIL world, when you return two guys that got as many snaps, they should be ready to go in year two. And I'm really expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, you lean on those guys coming back. Although I don't think the year you are in school anymore really matters. Transfer portals erase that. You go out and get guys that are seasoned that can come in and fit right in immediately because they have experience, and or freshmen that had to play a lot for a team like Auburn that comes back with that much experience under their belt. You know, we talked to Malcolm a few weeks ago. He said that he's excited about spring because he didn't get a chance to go through spring last year. You know, you remember he didn't arrive to Auburn until summer, and he was not an early enrollee. So he kind of felt like he was a step behind the whole time, even though he worked his way into the start lineup and garnered a lot of snaps the last half of the season and really kind of took a lot away from Robert Lewis and really moved into that role that he had. But now that he's gotten that year under his belt and he's going to go through spring, we already saw footage yesterday of him. Hugh Freeze was asked about Malcolm Simmons. He said, look, you know, he just looks like a different guy. We know that. We've seen him. We get a chance to see Malcolm probably as much or more than anybody. And he is different. He does look different. You can tell the weight room has been good to him. He's going to be a lot more, you know, last year he looked like a freshman. Let's be honest. He doesn't look so much anymore. And a year long of being in an SEC program's weight room, we knew would do him a lot of good. And Randy, you talk about this all the time about guys getting in the weight room, that sometimes it can be a bad thing to put on too much weight or to get bulked up because you might take away from your speed or some other things. But he's such a supreme athlete. He needed to put on maybe 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and just to help his durability in this league.
Yeah, it is difficult. You know, we've seen it over the years, especially with guys that maybe don't have the athleticism that Malcolm does, just really try to find their way onto the field by bulking up. And it does slow sideline to sideline mobility. It makes them a little bit more robotic in their motions out there. So there's a happy medium to be found there. But let's don't kid ourselves. Look at the NBA. You know, that's where I'll start with it. You know, look at the NBA. That's always, you know, when you and I were growing up, maybe in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't looked at that the need to get into the weight room for an NBA player having to have that type of skill set and athleticism was the thing to do. And then Michael Jordan and that crew came through, and Kobe Bryant following him, and you realize that, no, I mean, I'm going to be in the weight room the day of the game. And I'm going to be in the weight room after the game. And it's not going to slow me to the point, but getting that durability and being able to fight through. Look at LeBron. I mean, LeBron looks as good, if not better today than the day that he came into the league, Brett. And that's not because, he's got probably the best God-given ability that the good Lord ever gave to anyone to play the game of basketball in LeBron James. But, man, when you get 41, 42 years old and you walk out there and you look like him, that's work. That's staying consistent there. So bringing it back to Auburn, though, you know, you can say that you're a supreme athlete, but at this level, they're all supreme athletes. You know, I told you this yesterday, you know, Malcolm, knowing his background, you know, he's one of the best track and field athletes that the state of Alabama's ever produced. He was an unbelievable talent on the basketball court. You know, how much time do you have to really dedicate to that weight room and getting more athletic from a strength standpoint when you're playing three sports in high school? There's just, there's only so much time that you can invest into something like that. So I did sense, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other guys, once we see it come out, that have really changed their bodies. But more than anything, I think they changed their mental state when you get into year two. Like, it's my time. And I can sense it with Hugh Freeze too. I mean, this is year 3. You can't win 6 football games this year. You win 6 football games this year.
Yeah.
I want to support Hugh Freeze as much as anybody does. I'm desperate for us to not be on the chopping block looking for another coach. because I think from a recruiting standpoint, we've never had a coach recruit to this level.
Right.
We've never had anyone put a team together to go out there and to recruit to this level, Brett. And that's a mouthful. You got to be able to coach them up and put the rest of the pieces together. But from a Joe's and Bo's standpoint, buddy, we are putting a quality product out there that can compete with the Georgias and Alabamas of the world. We haven't been able to say that for quite some time.
That's a good segue into, where I wanted to go next with the urgency in this season. And you can say whatever you want, but year 3, and Hugh Freeze said it yesterday. He said, at this point in time, we just got to go win some football games. And you saw some of the players yesterday, saw some videos, and they said, "Look, it's time to shine. We got an itch about us. We got a chip on our shoulder. We've got a lot to prove." I think that nobody knows that more than they do. But at some point in time, you've got to get tired of being mediocre. Not the fans, not the media calling you out. At some point in time, you got to dig deep as a program, and that's including everybody, not just the coaches, but the players, and go, I'm tired of coming out here and coming up on the short end of the stick. I'm tired of having a season where we gave 5 games away. I'm tired of having a season where we have 4 years in a row of being a loser. And I say it like that because, if they can't get it inside of their mind mentally, then it does no good for us to sit here and try to want it for them. They've got to want it themselves. And that's where you are as a competitor. You just get to the point where you go, okay, everybody just shut up. Let's go out here and show what we can do. I think the roster, you just said it, the roster is as good as we've seen our roster in a long time. I remember Jason Caldwell talking about that a couple of years ago when Hugh Freeze got to Auburn, and he said, guys, it's gonna be a minute because, we've got some pieces, but we got a lot of holes too, and we got to build depth. And it's been a long time since we've had maybe this kind of depth on the offensive line as well. So all the pieces are there, but the problem is, Randy, you know this as well as I do, in the SEC, it's kind of like starting off 0-6 in baseball. You got a good team, but if you start off 0-6 in baseball, you have dug yourself such a hole to try to climb out of that, because everybody else is as good or better than you. So it's not like you're going to be able to make up all this ground. You're about to hit some stretch where you're going to be able to run off 9 to 12 wins in a row. Everything's going to be a grind. Football is the same way. Your roster's improved, but so is everybody else's. So you've got to figure out a way to finish games, and Auburn needs to get a killer instinct back. And it starts with the players. It starts with a mentality of, and we'll go into the quarterback talk here next, whoever that is, that leader has got to be not only a leader by voice, but a leader by action.
Well, I was going straight to the quarterback position. I was going to bring up what's going on in the basketball court for Auburn right now. Look, all this rah-rah and talk, and you and I and everybody else in the media, we need you to play harder. We need you to be more physical. We need you to not make mistakes late in the football game that cost you football games. We need to make the coaching a little bit better. All of that sounds good. But let's go to Auburn basketball. Who was the key to close out that game in the round of 32 the other night? A true freshman point guard, Tahad Pettiford, that looks like a pro. Got the skill set, got the demeanor, got the competitive spirit, got the ability to step to the free throw line with a smile on his face late in the basketball game and knock them down. Look, you can rah-rah, you can say everything that you want, but if you don't get those pieces right, Brett, good luck. Good luck. And Auburn at the quarterback position has not gotten that piece right for a long time. Now, you go back to Bo Nix, I think we were in such a poor state around Bo Nix, and there was so many moving parts year in and year out on the offensive side of the ball, from the offensive coordinator to the head coaches and all of the above, that it made it way more difficult to get that guy to his ceiling than I would think that we would get there now. But back to Tahad. Take Tahad off that team the other night. Do we win the game? Maybe. But we won the game going away with him on the team. And in football, I think we've got two guys in there competing for the starting role that if Hugh Freeze and this coaching staff can't get those type of talents to their ceiling, it's a coach's issue, Brett.
It is.
And I'm not trying to blame it, but it's the coaches is the reason that we've got those two guys there competing against each other. Everybody hear me out. If Deuce Knight is the starting quarterback for Auburn day one, you're looking at somebody that's going to be happy about it. There's no way I'm going to say anything negative. Yeah, would I like Jackson Arnold to come in and be an all-SEC performer? Yes, I don't care which one of them wins it. But there's other programs out here in the country that take true freshman guys like we saw with Tahad. And I know the point guard position may be a little different than the quarterback. But why are we the only one that makes it such an extreme move for a freshman quarterback to make a massive splash on this type of stage? For whatever reason, Auburn's always just made it out. Bo Nix looked pretty dang good.
He was freshman All-American.
I mean, he looked like if we wouldn't have lost our mojo on the offensive side around him and done such an extremely poor job recruiting offensive linemen around him and coaching them up, then I think we would have gotten him to his ceiling here at Auburn. So my point is, Brett, yes, there's rah-rah, there's talk, there's you and I going. I hope that we get back to the Pat Dye days and get in the locker room and, really give them a spill and let's get out there and let's play the brand of football but you better get the quarterback position right. And and look, you better pick the right one here and let the two compete with each other and not just go in thinking Jackson Arnold's the answer, because here's the reality of that. How old's Jackson Arnold, Brett?
He'll go into his second year.
Okay. All right. I mean, he's a young guy is my point.
Yeah, he's young.
Young. Okay. Deuce Knight's young. So, I mean, if he's a starting quarterback a few years, Deuce Knight's not going to be at Auburn. That's the day and age of the transfer portal that we're in. My point is, but if Jackson Arnold's the answer, by all means, let him be the answer. I am applauding the coaching staff at Auburn for giving us two really good, viable options at quarterback to hopefully.
And you have to do that every year.
Hopefully get that position, because if we get that position cleared up, which is the reason you go and hire Hugh Freeze, by the way, is to clear that position up. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's quarterback whisperer. He has been able to take guys that weren't premier talents but made them exceptionally good college quarterbacks, including Malik Willis, who never got to that level at Auburn, but he got to that level at Liberty with Hugh Freeze. So I'm way more positive going into this season than I have been in quite some time, and I don't know if that's scary or not, Brett, because you can attest that I haven't felt this confident about going into a season in a long time.
Yeah, I hate to put it so bluntly, but really all these other positions don't matter if the quarterback position's mediocre, and we've seen that. It really doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter how good your receiver room is, because if you ain't got a quarterback that can get them the ball, what does it matter? They just look good out there lining up. But this receiver room, if the quarterback position will rise up, has a chance to be the best in the country. And you heard KLS talk about that after Pro Day. Hugh Freeze was asked, comparable, is this the best wide receiver room he's ever coached? Now, you remember he coached A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Laquan Treadwell, those guys. That's big words. I don't know at this point. I mean, there's still a lot to prove, but this is his quote yesterday. He said, if this room doesn't have success, we won't have success. It's one of the most talented rooms I've ever been a part of. You don't say that unless you really know and mean it. And look, on paper, this is a very talented wide receiver room, but to be put in the talk of those guys that I just rolled off from Ole Miss, that tells you what the expectations are.
And I believe it. I watch Eric Singleton move around out there. If you can't scheme up a way to get that young man open, then there's an issue. And if the quarterback can't find a way to get Malcolm Simmons opportunities to make his stats look a lot better than they probably deserve, it's your own problem.
I mean, who's going to run three better receivers out there? Let's just assume Eric Singleton, Cam Coleman, and Malcolm Simmons are your starting three wide receivers. Who's running three better guys out there anywhere in the country?
They're not. But those guys won't get to their ceiling as well if we don't get this quarterback room.
Right.
So, but I don't mean this negative at all. I'm really continuing to applaud the coaching staff because I love the options. I like Jackson Arnold. I love that he gives you the opportunity if he does take what he was doing at the end of his time there at Oklahoma, that he can't. I think the best version of Auburn, and I've said this for how long, Brett, but I'm going to repeat myself because a lot of you are new to what we've been doing. Brett and I have been doing television and radio here in the state for 20 plus years. So our podcast is bringing in a lot of people around the country, though. We've had over 2,000 subscribers here in the last 3 weeks. So we thank all of you for finding us out there. But my point is, we're finding a lot of new people that are saying, who are these two guys up there talking? Well, the thing that I've always pressed for, back to Gus Malzahn, is I think our best version of offense at Auburn, with the pieces that we're consistently able to go out there and get, is a quarterback that can rush the football for somewhere between 700 and 1,000 yards a year. I don't think Nick Marshall was a pro quarterback, but I'd take him every single year at Auburn. Just give me Nick Marshall, and I'll try to figure the rest out. And I think those guys are out there. I thought Malik Willis was that guy. Well, Jackson Arnold brings that skill set, Brett.
Yep.
Jackson Arnold, in the last part of the season, almost rushed for 400 yards there at Oklahoma. I know without a shadow of a doubt Deuce Knight brings that skill set. Deuce Knight is a long, striding, confident, graceful athlete out there that can throw the football to pretty much any spot on the field, but he can run that thing.
Well, Jackson Arnold, let's compare it, Randy. And by the way, he's a junior going into his junior year.
Yeah.
Because he wore 10 his first year at Oklahoma and 11 last year. Yeah. He started, right? He came in, was a guy that challenged as a freshman at Oklahoma. Keelan Russell's probably going to be challenging, if not maybe the quarterback for Alabama. We'll see if Ty Simpson is able to beat Keelan Russell out, but he's a highly touted true freshman coming in. You know, again, I think the whole talk is you put your best quarterback preparation-wise on the field to give you the best chance to win. You said it. I've said it. In this day, look, what's the chances that either one of these quarterbacks are at Auburn next year? You don't know. The entire quarterback room for Auburn left this past year. So you have to really operate in the present. You can't worry about even what's going to be down the road 12 months from now. You got to worry about now, and then when the season's over, reevaluate and see what's going to happen, because it's such a fluid situation. It's kind of like shifting into a little bit of basketball talk here in just a minute. The damn transfer portal opening up the week of the Sweet 16 is the dumbest thing in the world. And I mean, John Calipari didn't even know it opened. He said, well, when's it open? Oh, it's open Monday? He said, so we're supposed to be coaching a game. That's what Nick Saban said when he was getting ready to play Michigan in the Rose Bowl. He said, okay, I'm trying to prepare for a very important game in our team, all while trying to figure out who's going to be on the team next year and who am I holding on to and who's in the portal and going out and recruiting. I mean, it's just so dumb, man. And then you heard Stephen Pearl the other day say, you know, we're trying to prepare for one of the best teams in college basketball in Michigan, and we're fielding hundreds of phone calls because we've got players that we need for next year, and we don't want some of them to get away. So we've got to go ahead and start making those relationships. In Michigan, Randy's going to have a guy suit up Friday that's already said he's leaving. He's already said he's in the transfer portal. He's not even going to be back next year. So is he going to put the Michigan uniform on and go out there and start for Michigan? I mean, yeah, he probably is. It's just a muddied up mess with his transfer portal and the timing of opening these windows. It just is so counterproductive to the sport, because you got the best teams in basketball and the best teams in football preparing to try to win a championship. It's like Nick Saban said, this is why we do all this, is to play in this game, but I can't concentrate on this game because I've got all these players I got to go get. He said, isn't that why we do this? He said, I'm confused. So again, we all know that's a whole nother story, but the fact that the transfer portal in basketball opened up the week of the Sweet 16 is the dumbest crap I've ever heard.
Agree with you, and we'll close out on football right here. My last statement is what I've said the entire time. Again, I do applaud this coaching staff for giving us these two options at quarterback.
Right.
I think the rest of it's going to work its way out because of the effort, again, of the entire coaching staff when it comes to recruiting. Back to Marcus Davis and what he's done to build up this receivers room. I think he deserves a ton of the credit for the ones that he's coaching in that room. But none of it's any good if we can't get those two quarterbacks right. But I love our two options. And that's pretty much at this point all we can ask for.
All right. Glenn said, who is number 22?
That's Alvin Henderson.
It's Alvin Henderson. It's Donovan Starr on the defensive side. But Alvin Henderson, you know, he does look like a tank because he's 5'9". What's he, about 195 pounds?
I think
right
he's
now?
a little heavier than that. I think he's more – I mean, he's listed – and look, I've made more posts of Alvin Henderson than any human in the United States over the last 4 years.
No doubt.
So I've seen more pictures, and this guy is –
You think he's 205?
I do think he's about 205.
I think he entered Auburn supposedly around the 195 mark. But I mean, look, I mean, I'm with you though, but does it make him look a little bit heavier because he's shorter? I mean, he's only 5'9".
Well, whatever he weighs, let me say this: he is not a scat back.
Oh no,
this guy has got a really nice natural build, big upper body, probably not as heavy as you'll see for some in the lower body breadth. You know, sometimes you'll see these squatty backs that have these huge lower legs that make them get to one. I mean, he's just got a good proportion all the way around. And he did when he was a freshman and sophomore in high school. And I'd see the pictures come across from the state. I'd be like, this guy's a sophomore.
You know who else was 5'9" that was an outstanding running back?
Trey Mason.
Well, Trey for Auburn. But guess who else? Like the one that I always think of all time. Don't take Auburn away. Who's probably the best running back in?
Well, you're going to say Emmitt Smith.
Yep.
I'm not giving you that Emmitt Smith is the best running back.
I didn't say he was the best all time. One of the best. Okay. Barry Sanders is the best running back of all time.
Is he your favorite?
Barry Sanders playing behind Detroit Lions offensive line and doing what he did is a miracle. I mean, seriously, if you'd have taken Barry Sanders and put him on the Dallas Cowboys and put Emmitt Smith on the Detroit Lions, Emmitt Smith would have been an average to a little bit above average running back. I don't know what we would have seen with Barry Sanders behind Dallas's offensive line back in the early 90s.
I'll give my opinion on this.
But Emmitt Smith was 5'9". That's what I'm saying.
Smith was 5'9". Was Barry Sanders even 5'9"?
He was may have been maybe.
He's probably more like 5'7", 5'8".
Right.
But there is no chance that there will ever be a running back, and this is going to be the 80s kid in me.
He was 5'8". He was 5'8".
There's no chance a running back's coming up the pipe is going to be better than Walter Payton in my eyes.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Sweetness.
Nobody will ever eclipse that. It's like Michael Jordan for you in basketball. You can bring them all on, and they can break his records running, and they can do it. But nobody will be better than Walter Payton for me.
Well, I mean, you know how much I like Walter Payton too, and I've got a big autographed picture when he broke the record, jumping over the pile, and over 16,000 career rushing yards for Walter Payton. So yeah, you're right.
7 or 8 years with a terrible football team there at Chicago.
Absolutely, it's kind of like what Barry Sanders had to deal with.
From the mid-'70s to the early '80s, it was like just toss sweep left, toss sweep right, get out of the way and hope and pray that he holds on. And the most impressive thing about Walter Payton,
sound like Bo Jackson.
Yeah, the way more impressive thing about Walter Payton compared to Bo Jackson is his durability.
Right.
Bo Jackson was never as durable as Walter Payton, ever. And I love Bo Jackson. He forever will be one of my favorite athletes of all time. But durability has to go into the conversation when you're talking about running backs. And Walter Payton flat didn't miss games.
Ever. Oh, no, that he never was out. Ever.
So there's something to be said about that.
All right, so closing out here because we got to get off early. We got a lot to do. Just some quick notes on basketball. Obviously, Auburn preparing. We'll talk more about this tomorrow as we get to be a day closer to the Sweet 16 matchup with Michigan. You look down the list of all the stat categories. Auburn is better than Michigan in almost every one of them, and so we know on paper Auburn's a better team. Michigan's playing really good basketball right now. That's the thing. Really, at this point in time, when you get to the Sweet 16, you can throw all the stats and everything you've done to this point out. It's who's playing the best, who's got that mojo. Michigan's definitely playing really well. I was glad to see Auburn get back to a semblance of their old self against Creighton. I thought they played one of their better games in the last 2.5 weeks against Creighton. So that's positive, carrying that into the Sweet 16. And now that you've gotten that first weekend out of the way and you made it, maybe you loosen up a little bit more. Maybe there was a lot of pressure coming down the line here for this Auburn team and all the talk and all this kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that we'll see a much looser team in Atlanta with a lot of fans backing Auburn. Should feel like a home game, semi-home game for Auburn in State Farm Arena. So that's my take on that before we get off.
Well, quickly, and this is semi-X's and O's talk, but you know, Brett, that I love up-tempo basketball. I love it. I love Loyola Marymount. I love everything about sideline break, and I'm bringing something into Auburn on this. I really love the change with CBM. If he gets a rebound or if the ball ends up in his hand on the defensive end, then he rushes it up the court,
Right.
like the point guard, and he gets it into a semi. I know it's not a full transition Showtime Lakers basketball style, but we're getting into flow. And I thought that we got away from that for about 6 weeks. It felt like way too much half-court offensive sets and late into shot clock sets that this team's just too dynamic to slow things down to that point. We need more shots. We need to take advantage of having wings like Miles Kelly and CBM that can get downhill. And I know we loved the matchup for CBM and exposed that and took advantage of that with him matched up with the freshman who was outstanding on the offensive end too. But it was a really good matchup for Auburn on our offensive end of the court, and CBM took advantage of that. But, Brett, you and I pleaded for that for a couple of weeks, but we saw it. And that gives me hope as we head into the Sweet 16. I want to go down. I don't want to go down losing 67-65. If Auburn goes down losing the way that we did to Alabama in overtime at home, and we both get into the 90s, and we had an opportunity to make a fall-away shot that could have won the basketball game with the player of the year in the country, and they end up giving it to another one that deserves probably to be in contention for player of the year, and he makes his shot. I can live with that, Brett. I just don't want to lose the way we did in the SEC, where it just looks like we have no flow on the offensive end. So CBM's a big part of that. He's a 6'7" long, lengthy guy that could probably play point guard. And Bruce Pearl's already mentioned that he may play some point guard next year if he ends up coming back to Auburn. But I thought that was a nice change up. And if we stay with that brand of offense, I love our chances the closer we get to this thing.
Yeah, and I'll also say that if Todd Pettiford scores 18 to 25 points the rest of the way out, it's going to be real hard for anybody to beat this team.
It helps him too, Brett.
Oh, it does.
It helps.
It does.
And we've had Denver and Tahad in the game together a lot, which takes a lot of the responsibility with him dribbling the air out of the ball up top, trying to create something himself.
Right.
When you've got other guys out there that are expected to create with him. I think he's the best. I think he's the best point guard option from an NBA standpoint that Auburn may have ever had. We'll see how this plays. I'm not giving him Jared Harper and Doc Robinson esteem just yet, but the ceiling's higher for Todd Pettiford. And buddy, these NCAA runs are led by outstanding point guards a lot. And I truly think we've got one.
No doubt about it. Well, we got to get out today because I got a massively busy day today. I know you always have a busy day too, but I have got to hit the ground running today. I already feel like I'm behind. Let's get to some more of our partners real quick. Sure Shot in Alexander City, official home for all your outdoor needs, firearms, apparel. Turkey season starts this weekend. Youth season started this past weekend, but the official turkey season starts for everybody this weekend. All the new apparel, Browning sale going on for all Browning firearms, 10% off. Give Sure Shot a call today at 256-329-0080. Tell them Auburn Blitz sent you. Go see Scott Watson. He'll take care of you. Oliver Ross, a full-service bartending service. They'll take care of you from a party of 20 up to 20,000. Licensed, trained bartenders come out to your place and handle all your needs. So make sure you find them on Instagram and Facebook, Randy. And I know you want to hit Sign Source and Lee Apparel.
Well, I do, but I also want to brag on Mark there with Oliver Ross. Brett, you would be upset if you come to my new Auburn office. He brought me a welcome opening up my new office in Auburn gift, and you come on by, Brett. And then you can call.
Well, guess what? I see him today. I've got a meeting with him today, so I'm glad you gave me a little ammo there.
Yeah, you're going to be impressed, and boy, I can't thank him enough. But yeah, Lee Apparel and Sign Source. We got a new office there in Auburn for you to stop by. I'll start with Sign Source. We've got 3 brand new bucket trucks that we've got going all over the state of Alabama and Georgia and in the Southeast. We have got 90-foot lift capabilities there, but we can start any signage project from wall murals to vehicle wraps to just basic yard signs and banners. We can handle it from start to finish with Sign Source. 256-825-0197, and then Lee Apparel right there with us. Custom apparel, corporate apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products. If you need some swag to get your name out there, we want to help you. 256-825-0197.
All right, guys. Again, really appreciate all of you that join us each and every day here on the Auburn Blitz podcast. Of course, we'll be back with you tomorrow, same time, same place. Hope everybody has a wonderful day out there, and a big old War Eagle to everybody.